right, any more questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any, I don't think it ever came up the last meeting, if it did, someone missed it. Is there a salary increase involved in this budget for your staff members?
2%, I believe is what.
Because I don't think we mentioned that. It's 2%?
Right.
It was mentioned last week. We mentioned it last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Is that in the handbook?
No,
So, is that an across the board or just for 2 people?
it was across the board.
And that's based on what?
On
The past?
performance and doing a good job. Feeling they deserve an increase, that's a cost of living increase.
It's pretty much in line with the Social Security cost of living, so it's reasonable.
No, it's above the cost.
It is above it.
1.8 to 2.2%.
No.
I don't think that's worth arguing over 0.2%.
That presupposes that they're entitled to any kind of cost of living increase.
I disagree.
Well, is there some law, Mr. Militello, that ordains that every year it goes up 2% for every employee of the township?
No.
Okay, so why is it tagged on Social Security payments? Or why should it be?
It's a guideline, that's all. It's a guideline for the cost of living.
Yeah, well, for governmental employees, okay, certain ones.
No, the consumer price index. That's what the Social Security increase is based on.
Look, we've already established that there's no regulation, rule, or law that requires us to automatically give 2% every year. Okay? The private sector doesn't do that.
If I,
It's based
if
on
I may,
performance.
so here's the thing.
But it isn't based on performance, it was based on a blanket 2%.
No,
But
no,
she
that
doesn't.
is not correct. My entire staff works their butt off. They are constantly busy, they are doing immense customer service, doing lots of information that is needed for every taxing body in this district. And they do it well, they do it professionally, and I believe they all deserve a 2% raise. You may not agree with that, but based on what I see and what I have to do to make sure that that department functions well, they deserve it. And that's my opinion, and that's why I put it in there.
All right, so what we're talking about is an extra $6,000 in the salary budget.
Over zero, if there was zero given, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Is that correct? And by the way, they all weren't doing it. They all weren't doing totally good work because you already said you fired somebody this past fiscal year.
This is based on the people that will be here for the budget that we're talking about. These people are still here, they're still doing well, they work well, and I want to keep good people. And, that's the reality of it. There's a lot of work that gets done, and it's not easy to replace people either. And I'm only not replacing one person in order to help you guys get to the money that you've already levied.
I think it should refer to the board, not those guys, myself.
Right.
We are a board, not guys. Thank you.
And it's sort of disguised in this budget, the salary increase.
There's what?
It's disguised.
There's no disguise in the budget. It's for 6 full-time people with a 2% increase from their current salaries.
Where does it say 2% increase? In the
We've
budget?
told you, it's in there. It's,
No, it's just in the number. It's not this executive decision that you made to increase everybody's salary.
correct.
It's not in the budget, and I didn't know about it until just now.
It's in the number, in the salary line, that is a 2% increase over
Okay, well-
their current number is. I don't understand why you don't get that. It's in the number, it's called salaries, it's 2%.
Then there should have been a star on it that said, this figure represents an increase of 2% over the prior year.
I told you that the last hearing, and I'm telling you again, it's a 2% increase.
Okay, the last hearing was, and I think at that time, I said, I'd like to know what the increase is to reflect on the budget if you're increasing people's salary.
And she answered that.
Oh, okay, so I would say, make it a 1% increase would be the compromise. So 2% you're saying? So 2% of that $242,458 in salaries. That does not include you, right? Because you're in the lower one.
That's correct.
Okay. So you're saying the 2% is increased, is reflected in that amount. That isn't something that's gonna be done later.
It's 2% based on each of their current salaries. We increased their current salary by 2% to be reflected in that. That's what that 242,458.
So we're talking about an extra $5,000 some dollars.
We're
Right.
talking about 2% to keep my staff that, I mean, really, I don't understand what the big deal, what your problem is, understanding it's 2%. Each
Oh, okay.
employee would get a 2% raise on what their current salary is.
And when does that raise take effect?
Would be in April, when the budget is supposed to go into effect. Am I incorrect that the current budget ends at March 31st? So the new budget starts April 1st.
I don't know when you plan for these increases, okay? That's why I asked you. Yes, the new fiscal year starts April 1st, okay? But I don't have any idea when you plan on instituting this 2% increase. Now you've told us, April 1st. Have you already promised people the 2% raise?
I would never promise them anything until I get through the 15 hearings, budget hearings, but no, I have not.
So every year since you've been the assessor, everybody's gotten 2%.
No,
That is incorrect.
Okay, what years didn't they?
I
Last year.
don't know. I mean, there's
Last year.
been years where we didn't get an increase.
There wasn't an increase last year?
No, there was an increase, but it was less than 2%. Was the-
And there have been years where there's
And there's
no
been,
increase. It's based on performance, so some
it's
people
based
get
on
it, some
performance.
don't.
Some people may not get it if they don't perform.
Well, it goes into effect April 1st, right? So if they don't perform in the next, 6 weeks, they won't get it? Is that, as of now, you're going to give it to everyone, correct?
As of now, I don't know what you're going to approve.
Okay, well, the figure last year is one point what? 5%?
I'd have to look.
It was, we used the social security figure last year, Steve, the CPI from them.
Then why wasn't that used this year?
Well, we could use it this year if that's what you're proposing, and that is what now? I think it's
1.8.
1.8.
1.8.
Well,
That just keeps people even with the cost of living.
yeah, well, I think it'll be 1%.
It's pretty,
And that's what I propose, a 1% increase. This idea that everybody automatically gets something,
That's not the case.
what,
Budget's from 2019.
what isn't the case?
I'm looking to see the number you wanted from last year.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm talking to myself.
what's the cost of living increase, 1.5?
I believe it's,
1.6?
as Stan has said, I believe it's
1.6?
well,
I'm talking about what the increase was for social security.
security, which is the CPI.
Mr.
Yeah,
Militello,
1.6.
you're connected in, what is it?
Actually, I got bumped off the, let me just check.
The
real quick.
internet's not working well today.
No, it's on now.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just been fixed.
1.6.
1.6, okay. So I would propose that we should do the CPI, which is 1.6.
I think that's a good compromise.
And I think it's terrible because the average worker, private sector worker, does not get a 1.6.
I think they do. What I read in the papers is,
We're talking about Illinois, okay, a depressed state. We're not talking the national figures, okay?
I think the 1.6 is a good,
I think it's a good
Compromise.
I think it's a good compromise also.
Now, this proposed 2% increase by the assessor for everybody if they're doing a good job. It's up to you to give their salaries out, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if somebody is doing okay job, they get 2%. Someone's doing a really, really good job, that's only 2% too, right?
Yep.
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a blanket thing where everybody has this expectation they're gonna get more the next year. And the really good employees versus the ordinary ones. So, I don't care how you give out the raises. 5%, 10%, somebody gets more responsibility, they get more, that's your thing, okay?
Well, currently it's not, because you don't, it's correct. And as the assessor, I have the right to do that. To distribute it, any increase in wages to be distributed equally.
Well, that-
They don't start off, they aren't all at the same, pay scale either. So 2% on one of them isn't gonna be very much. 2% on another one is gonna be a little bit more.
So, let's talk about last year. Did anybody get more than 2%?
We all did,
We all
whatever
did.
we did.
Whatever we did last year
Again,
was,
I know,
it was not,
this concept shouldn't be that hard. My team works together, they get the same raise across the board. That's how it works in my office. You may not agree with that, that's how I do it.
Why didn't you just answer my question? So last year, nobody got higher than a 2% increase.
I don't know what
no,
was.
they didn't, because this, you approved a 1 point
No,
something
no,
last
no,
year.
I don't know what goes on these. So I propose that it be reduced to 1%, that's it.
I propose that we reduce to 1.6%, the same as the CPI.
So first, don't we have a motion and some numbers here first?
I don't know what the numbers are.
No, percentage.
Percentage,
Somebody's gonna make a motion, get a second to go on with it.
I make a motion that it be 1.6% the CPI,
I'll second that.
seconded by Stan. Any further discussion on that motion? Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
No,
Mr. Rakestrop?
No.
Mr. Adams? Yes. Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Beard?
No,
Okay.
so I propose 1.0, and this is only the figure for the salaries, okay? We're not saying anything about Mary giving somebody more than 1%. Obviously, that means someone's going to get less than 1% increase or no increase at all. But what I'm saying is that that figure for salaries is going to be reduced by 1%. So,
And what is the amount that we're talking about, the difference between?
it's about 2,500.
2,500.
Well, the exact amount is $2,424.58, right?
Did I hear a motion for 1%? Was that your,
Yes?
thank you.
Actually, that motion was made prior to the second.
No, he didn't make,
no, he didn't make a motion, right, he said, he said yes.
it was just suggested.
Do we have a second? Did we?
No. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and second on changing that to 1%. Let's have any further discussion? Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Rakestrop?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, no. Mr. Wojciechowski?
No.
Mr. Beard?
Yes.
Okay. Complete. Okay, none being heard, we're done, Mary, thank you. You know, these got put out of,
Wait a minute,
But-
these contractual services, this does not apply to the assessor's office?
I thought you were done, Steve. I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the rest of page 8.
I don't think you said, I said that I had no further question. I don't think Steve said
Okay,
that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it does comply. I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
All right, so let's go through those.
They're all the same as last year.
Training, all your training. will come
Sure,
up.
well, there's, okay, so maintenance and equipment, that's the printer, mostly, and
The computer,
I don't know if you have that's probably in line there. The computer maintenance is, we still have a couple of months of that.